I don't get hungry.
No, you don't.
No.
You just get aroused.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we go down the list?
Yes.
Twilight Princess HD.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, whatever.
That is the Zelda game that could most benefit from a big HD reboot.
Are you fucking crazy?
Which one is it? Which one could most benefit from a nice coat of paint?
I would have said Wind Waker, which they did.
They did, and it was awesome.
Which they did. That was the.
No, I'm saying like now.
Like yes, they're closing the loop and doing the ones that didn't need it. Nice.
No, I'm saying
and the games that might not be worth revisiting.
Yeah,
Let's revisit those.
It's a good game.
Twilight Princess. Well, some might call it a great game, but not a game that we need to return to.
I will happily return to it and play it again.
The most distressing thing about the Twilight Princess announcements that they made here was that they're putting out a Wolf Link amiibo. Yes. And they're saying that the Wolf Link amiibo will work in the new Legend of Zelda. That some data will transfer. Oh, no. So the idea that, like, anything from Twilight Princess will exist outside of Twilight Princess
or specifically in the new one.
Especially in the new one, which stands a good chance of being really cool. Yeah, like the last thing they need to do is saddle it with the fucking crap from Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
I mean, it might just mean it unlocks, like, some figurine.
Yes,
for
hopefully,
the,
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it might mean nothing.
It could be nothing.
Like most amiibo stuff, it might be nothing. But,
right.
Like, the idea that that would be the one is like, oh, no.
It's a good game. And then, wait, have they said if it's going to be, can you play it with just like a controller, like a pro controller? I'd have to assume so.
The footage appears to be GameCube-like version. So, remember how the Wii version was flipped to account for how people hand it? So, this one is GameCube flipped.
Okay. Because I actually never played Twilight Princess with a GameCube controller. I only played
it was
the Wii
a better
one.
way to play
the
game.
I'm sure. Like, I've always wanted to do that.
It was absolutely a better way to play the game.
In fact, I was going to do that on Dolphin.
The thing with Twilight Princess is that not that it's necessarily some fucking bad game.
Right.
It's that it is just another goddamn Zelda game, and its hooks are not good.
Yeah, I don't like the wolf stuff that much.
Like
I wasn't
its
huge on the
hooks
wolf
are,
stuff.
I mean, not fucking. They do not set it apart in a good way.
Like they
had made a handful of those games at that point, like that since Ocarina. Like Twilight Princess was the moment where it was like, all right, guys, you got to come up with something else.
Well, don't forget. I mean, that's your 2015 retrospect talking. Like, don't forget at the time the hook was, hey, it's realistic Zelda.
It was
right.
No, it was return to form because everyone loved old Zelda and then Ocarina, and after Ocarina you have Majora, which is fucking weird in an awesome way, and then you had Wind Waker, which was super weird in an awesome way.
There's nothing weird about fucking Wind Waker. Wind Waker's a fucking awesome game.
I 100% agree. I love it.
The idea that the idea that anyone like says that game's like fucking
you're sailing. It's on little islands and stuff.
Totally. Like the Twilight Princess return to form thing is fucking bullshit.
I fucking completely agree.
Anyone that looked at Wind Waker, when it got announced, but then doubly so after it came out and you got to play it.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, this fucking kid Zelda. Fuck that.
People calling it Zelda.
Those people can. Fuck that shit.
Those are the same people. Those are the same people that were like shedding tears at the Twilight Princess announcement.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Trust me. I worked at a GameStop retail location when they showed Wind Waker, and the amount of know-it-all customers that came in and talked about how it was going to be the worst game ever. Trust me, I hate that type of argument.
Oh my god.
Well,
I loved Wind Waker.
I'm not accusing you of being that, but like there's nothing fucking weird about Wind Waker.
I'm saying
they took it in an awesome new direction gameplay-wise.
100%. But it's not the traditional, like, people wanted more like Ocarina. Like, oh, here's this big field, and you're riding a horse in a castle, like, resembling
they just gave you a big
Ocarina.
Water field, man. It's badass.
I love it. I am just speaking on behalf of these people. Like, I understand.
They don't deserve a voice.
There's nothing, dude. I don't think there's anything.
Do not speak on their behalf because they are bullshit.
I get it. I like the idea because Ocarina is very much looked at as like, some people think it's the best one ever.
I completely. I disagree that the Twilight Princess is even calling back to Ocarina. What it's calling back to is that fucking Shoshinkai tech demo they put out of the GameCube,
the Space World one, because where Link is fighting Ganon.
All of the ire about Wind Waker came from people seeing that tech demo and then getting super angry that they didn't just then go and make that game.
The Space World demo. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So like that's why Twilight Princess exists or was made.
But it's
to fulfill
good.
Those expectations.
It's good. It's super boring.
Yeah, it's not.
It is super boring.
I'm with you. It's not even a top 5 Zelda game for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like a 50, 60-hour game. It's a huge game with some really cool dungeons and stuff. Yeah, it's good. And name one that you'd rather see getting the big re-release.
They already did it. Like I don't want them to do any more. Okay, like they should be doing something else.
It's the best candidate if they're doing another.
Tantalus is doing this port. They could be making another fucking Funky Barn instead of wasting their time with this bullshit.
Enough said, man.
I can't argue that.
Exactly.
There's nowhere else to go on that one.
You know, like there's nothing wrong with Twilight Princess in a vacuum. It's just like in the cavalcade of Zelda games that came, like that was the one where you're like, all right, the hook in this one is kind of lame.
Right.
The new stuff, the new world stuff they did, building these characters, like the new characters were kind of lame. It was the series at its most wheel spinningest.
I think, though, that there are a lot of people like me that maybe have not played Twilight Princess since it first came out and are kind of curious, like, okay, now that we're separated from the big, hullabaloo of the Wii launching and everything and these motion controls and stuff, I wonder how it holds up. I wonder how it's aged. Because, like, earlier this year, I was looking to, like, kind of restart that on Dolphin. And so there are plenty of people that I think want to go back and see how it holds up. And people are going to be excited that they can do it in this form, looking better, playing better. Because, I mean, graphically, like, it's kind of muddy. Like, you go back to the GameCube or Wii one, it doesn't look great. I am very excited to be able to play it again in this fashion as someone who wants to see how it's held up.
I will give it a shot just to see if I was wrong or not, because I was not a fan either.
That was a great game.
Twilight Princess?
If you had to break it out into graphics, sound, gameplay, value, and reviewers' tell.
Yep.
You can, because you look at the graphics of the era, it looked great. It was an awesome looking game.
Yeah.
It sounded fine. It sounded like a Legend of Zelda game. Played like a Legend of Zelda game.
Plenty of value there.
It's a long game.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're like, you know what?
By the standards of 2006.
By the standards of 2006, by the review standards, the review processes of 2006, it could only score so low.
Did you review it?
Yeah.
What did they get?
8.8 on Wii and an 8.9 on Game.
August video game reviewing institutions determined through their time-tested process that it was a great game.
That's definitely one of those games that, like, the GameSpot reviewing system of its era got that game a lot of its points because breaking it out into those component scores, like, you can't fault the graphics, like you can't fault the components of it.
Tilt only goes so far.
It's all on paper that you just go like, nope. So
and back then it still was an average. The score?
It wasn't just an average, but there was a formula.
There was a formula to it.
Oh, okay.
We didn't determine the final scores for reviews.
We had a spreadsheet.
There was literally a spreadsheet of five. It was 5 categories. It was not even a straight average of those. It was weighted.
Okay.
So gameplay mattered most.
So that's good.
Which makes sense. But
so back when they were getting like emblems and stuff.
I came up with the emblem stuff.
That was later.
The fact to try to kind of counteract some of what scores were doing.
Right.
So that was the pivot. Is like after reviews like that, where it was like just kind of ridiculous that like this game that like I had feelings about that did not necessarily like manifest in the review score. I was like, you know what, I as the reviewer should be able to say, here's what this game is scored.
Right.
And a lot of other problems the GameSpot review scale had at the time. So, we worked to revamp it.
That scale went all the way back to 96, right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And it made a lot of sense then. But as more and more games got, scored on that scale, you started to see that everything somehow got an 8.6. They're just no matter what, the math always seemed to work out to 8.6.
I want to look up. For some reason, Shadow of the Colossus comes to mind because I reviewed that, and I want to say that got an 8.6.
I feel like that's what the first Splinter Cell might have gotten.
Yeah.
But it's just for some reason there was a lot of just like big budget games that would have certain amounts of like
just like production value
that like you couldn't deny. You go like, well, the graphics need to be an 8 or higher because it's a great looking game, but like so just the way the math would often work out.
So if I reviewed Star Wars Battlefront back then, it would have gotten 8.6.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
But like if I was rating on today's scale, like Twilight Princess is totally the definition of a 3-star game.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's absolutely like you just look at it and go like, this is the most middle of the road fucking thing they could have made.
Abandon everything you thought you knew about scores on video games.
I think I gave it a 9.9.
That's pretty high.
That's really high.
There are very few scores that go higher than a 9.9.
I think that's the highest I ever gave. Yeah.
Yeah, that game is like, it's okay. Like you come away from it going like, well, they made another Legend of Zelda game and I guess that's cool, but man, they have made some of these in this format that have been far better.
Yeah. Again, not even top 5 Zelda for me.
Totally. So, that's totally one of those things where you're just like, there's no...
Or even if this was the same game, the fact that they'd already made like X number of them before immediately diminishes this one because...
Totally, yeah.
Making the same game over and over only gets you so far, and
it was one of the... Like, people got so hung up on the language of that review. Like, things that were just, like, not meant to... be like, and this is always, anyone reads a review, they pick out their little fucking thing that they want to harp on and get all weird about. When you just include it as just like almost an aside, Like somewhere in that review is me saying like, oh, maybe they could have added voice acting.
Oh.
Like it's not meant to be like, this game must have voice acting or it is terrible, which is how people took it.
Right.
But it's just like, hey, they could move forward. A lot of games have voice acting these days. Like, wouldn't it be neat to see what they could do there?
Like, there's not necessarily...
That's a travesty. How dare you? It's just like, fuck you, whatever. Fucking idiots.
Especially like when the entire basis of your argument is because that's how they do it,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's how it's always been, so it must always be that way.
There's no qualitative argument for why.
Those are the same people that are like going like, how dare you say that Fallout is a 3 out of 5 game because it's this majestic achievement. Like, no, fucking whatever, man.
Yeah.
They made a lot of those games. You'd think they'd make them better by now.
Yeah.
It's tragic.
Videogames.com.
That this has not changed.
Yep.
Ever.
I agree.
That it has always been like this.
Yeah.
And it will always be like this.
It always will be. That came up with the Tomb Raider review a little bit. People were saying, like, oh, you're saying explicitly this is a better game than the last one. Why did it get the same score? But, like, expectations are higher for sequels.
Time has fucking changed. No, times have passed, man.
Yeah.
The presence of the original Tomb Raider makes Rise of the Tomb Raider inherently less impressive.
Right. So if they hadn't stepped it up, if they had made exactly an equivalent game, it would have probably gotten a lower score.
Yeah.
Like, that's just kind of the way it works.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, people never understood, and probably never will, is that whole thing of like, oh, well, you're saying that this game's better than this game.
Yeah.
Like, well, no,
No.
not really, because that was a different time and standards were a little different at that point. So, naturally, there's, you can't just give every game a higher score every year, because then you end up with scores that are like, oh, we gave this a 92.6.
Yeah.
It's like, what if Tony Hawk 4 was better than Tony Hawk 3?
Yeah.
Then it would have been able to maybe maintain its 10, but it wasn't. So, that wasn't really an issue. But, there were a lot of situations like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember having to review Super Street Fighter 4 for Game Informer, and it's a better game than Street Fighter.
Game, but who cares?
Yeah, and like Street Fighter 4 got a 9.5, and I played it, and it's like, I like this better, but that impact isn't there anymore. So I gave it like a 9, and then everyone's like, you're saying it's better than Street Fighter 4, but then you gave 0.5
It's like,
less.
this isn't that hard to understand.
I scored Ultra actually lower than the original like Street Fighter 4,
right.
just because of expectations. It's still a great game.
But objectively, it's better. Right?
Yeah, totally. Like, it's the best iteration of that game. However, like, it was a...
You would think that people would like understand that, but I think what happens is like there are always new people entering the world of video games. And so it's always their first fucking holiday season or something.
Okay.
It's always their first year of reading reviews.
Yep.
So those people will always just be there to kind of make the exact same complaint over and over again.
Yeah, there's always going to be a new crop
until we're dead.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's the eternal December on the internet.
Yeah, totally.
It's exactly what it is.
Yes. AOL got access to Usenet and ruined everything.
Yep. All right.
And then they started reading video game reviews, and it's been downhill ever since.
Jesus Christ. Oh, man.
Nintendo news.
Now that I'm feeling all old and crusty, let's move through the rest of this stuff.